be quiet now, we'll start. Especially those around the vending machine. There's a lot of people around the vending machine. Please take your seats and we'll be ready to start. Thank you for coming this evening. My name is Osborne. I'm the moderator of the town of Groveland. This is my 13th year. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? In the left corner here. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to make some introductions.
So with the
And if you folks can put your hand up when I give your name.
right around me, so it would be a team. 3 out of 4 of us. I don't know what to do.
Okay, we'll start with introductions from my left.
Your house.
Board of Selectmen, Dr. William Dahl. Member Betty Gorski. And Member Donald Green. On my right, I was going to say the whole Finance Committee, but they're missing in action at the moment, except for Mr. John Gray on my right. Here they go. Sorry. All right. Before I forget anything else, I forgot to finish the main table over here. Finance Director, Mr. Greg LeBret. Town Clerk, Anne Brody. And Town Council, William Hewitt. Thank you. All right. The Finance Committee, they may not all be here, but these are the members of the Finance Committee who will be doing so much work this year. Chairman, Mr. William Cook. Members Andy Wiles, John Gray, Tom Minicello, Lee Berry, Bill O'Neill, John Monstagonia, thank you, and Bill Adams. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your work. We are ready to start a special town meeting.
Robert J. Galloway, Chief of Police of the Town of Groveland and the County of Essex. In the name of the Commonwealth, do I hereby require to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town who are qualified to vote in the special town meeting to meet at the Dr. Elmer S. Bagnall School, 253 School Street, on Monday, April 29, 2013, at 7 p.m. to vote on the following articles.
The moderator from for several years past now has taken it upon itself to shorten the town meeting procedures by not reading all the articles all the way through. I might give a shortened version. Okay? So Article 1, I'm going to ask you to, when you have time to read the article in front of you, I might give a shortened version. To Article 1, to transfer $22,115.52 from the overlay account of a certain number to the overlay account of the next number for the purpose of abating personal property taxes. Levying error and to settle the matter in accordance with the Department of Revenue requested procedure. Board of Selectmen. Finance Board recommends.
Move favorable action. Second.
Been moved and seconded favorable action. Is there anyone who would like to discuss anything? There being nobody, we'll vote on this. Those in favour of favourable action, Article 1, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Unanimous. 2. This article is basically to pay for Merrimack School's kitchen equipment and so on. And this project, all the costs of the Donahue and Sweeter school projects in Merrimack, including the debt service on the bonds issued by the district to finance the Donahue and Sweeter projects, shall be allocable solely to the town of Merrimack. Article submitted by the Finance Director. Board of Selectmen recommend. Finance Board.
Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action. Any discussion? There being none, we'll vote. Those in favour of Article 2 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Article 3. This is basically to pay to repay the Sound Groveland Fire Station lot. This requires a 2/3 vote. Board of Selectmen recommend. Finance Board.
Favorable action. Move favorable action.
Second. Did I hear a second? Second. Thank you. Moved and seconded favourable action. Any questions? Discussion? We'll vote. Those in favour of Article 3 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. There being a unanimous vote, we have 2/3. Article 4. To spend $25,600 for a new police cruiser. It requires a 2/3 vote again. Board of Selectmen,
Favorable action.
recommend favourable. Finance Board,
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
moved and seconded for favourable action. Any discussion? Okay. The article was submitted by the Capital Improvement Committee. We will vote. Those in favour of Article 4 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no.
No.
Majority. Okay, major majority, and that is over the 2/3 vote. Article 5. Transfers. These are all transfers from one department to another. I would like to ask you to read down these. If there is anyone that has a question, I will basically just say a few words of each. If you want to hold on anything, let me know. The first is for the fire clerk's salary. The second is from the Mass Fire Academy training to cover the firefighters' wages. Third, health insurance expense lines to the police expense line. $1,000 from unemployment expenses to police incentive wages. $1,000 from unemployment expense line to cover initial funding shortfall on the Conservation Commission fee revenue. Next, $1,200 from Conservation Commission stipend to the COMCOM fee revenue account line. $2,500 from the treasurer and tax title expenses to the treasurer's expense line item. Next three are all for snow and ice removal over expenditures. The last two is $20,000 from Haverhill wastewater plant expenses to the sewer expenses. And finally, $3,100 from Haverhill capital bond expense item to the sewer expense line item to cover initial funding shortfall. Articles submitted by the various departments by request. Board of Selectmen recommend.
Favorable action.
Finance Board.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action. I did not hear anybody say hold on anything, so we'll vote on the whole package. Those in favour of Article 5 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Article 6, this is to transfer $100,000 for aquifer protection from the 2012 Water Enterprise Department to retain earnings to the water reimbursement account. Board of Selectmen recommend. Finance.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action. Any discussion? There being none, we'll vote. Those in favour, Article 6, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Unanimous. 7 and final. To see if the town will vote to transfer $120,000 from the fiscal year 2012 Sewer Enterprise Department retained earnings to the sewer pump station improvement project. Board of Selectmen recommend. Finance Board.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action. Any discussion? There being none, we'll vote. Those in favour of Article 7 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no.
Second.
Votes to made and seconded to dissolve the special town meeting. Any discussion? We'll vote. Those in favour of closing the special town meeting, vote say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Very good. Now ready to start the annual. It's in the same package as the special.
Robert J. Melowitz, Chief of Police of the Town of Groveland and the County of Essex. In the name of the Commonwealth, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town who are qualified to vote in the annual town meeting to meet at the Dr. Elmer S. Bagnell School, 253 School Street, Groveland, Mass. on Monday, April 29, 2013, at 7:30 p.m. to vote on the following articles.
Selectman Brady would like to speak first.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. One thing that I get told a lot of times we forget to do at these town meetings is to thank people. So I thought maybe we'd start out, but we have everyone here. But I wanted to thank all the appointed boards, that help us do all the work throughout the year. The elected officials who are always there, the road commissioner, everybody else, the assessors, everyone that's elected, water commissioners. Those people do a lot of work that we don't all know about. Conservation Commission, they're out there all the time looking at different projects. So I'd just like to thank all the town people that work for us. We appreciate all you do for us. Secondly, I wanted to bring up the fire chief is retiring this year. He hits the mandatory age of 65 when the state forces you out. And John has been the fire chief for many years. I was on the fire department under John. He's been here for you for a long time, and I'd just like you to thank him when you see him, because, it's a thankless job, and I'd like to thank Carol too, because, she's always supported John in everything he does. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. I'd also like to thank the Board of Fire Engineers. You've probably heard, if you've watched our meetings, they came to us and pointed out that the way the fire department is set up, us the article numbers that we needed to put on, but we also needed to add two other items, which were number 43 and number 44 in the chapter 48 ones. So we'll be bringing that forward when we get to Article 16. But again, I'd like to thank the Board of Fire Engineers. They've been, supporting the fire department. They look at all the specs for all the trucks that are purchased, all the equipment. They're there to support the men in any way that they've needed to be. And again, I'd like to thank them as well. And then finally, Bill Dodd has decided not to run for re-election. Bill has been serving the town now for 18 years in the position of selectman. He did step aside 1 year, but he came back the next year. And again, I'd like to thank Bill for all the work that we've done together with him. I know he cares about the town, as we all do, and I'd like to thank him. Most importantly, I'd like to thank you all for coming here tonight to help support the town's work. Thank you.
And just before we start part two, I'd like to ask a favour of everybody. Very many people here will be sitting in your seats because you have a certain article that is dear to your heart. It means a lot to you. And you come here mainly to support people or an article that you want to vote on. Either way. Sometimes people will just get up and pack their bags and leave once their special article is over. This could make a huge difference to what we have to handle tonight. We've got many articles which need a 2/3 majority. They need a really good vote, and we need your votes. So I'm asking that even if you're here primarily for one or two articles that are dear to your heart, I'm asking you, on behalf of the town, will you please stay to the end, and I'll make every effort, and I know you will make every effort to finish in a sprightly manner, and we will get the work done. But thank you very much. Okay. So we're ready to start Article 1. To vote to authorize the selectmen to petition the state for money and the provision of Chapter 90 to be expended by and under the direction of the State Department of Public Works. Article submitted by the Board of Selectmen, and they recommend
Favorable action.
Finance.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded for favourable action. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. Those in favour of Article 1 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Unanimous. Article 2. Basically, I'll give you a synopsis to transfer $320,800 from available funds for Chapter 90 road work. Board of Selectmen recommend.
Favorable action.
Finance.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. Those in favour of Article 2 say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Unanimous. Article 3, which authorises the town, the Board of Selectmen to acquire land parcels for rights of way. And it gives you the 15 sidewalk easements, 3 slope easements, and 64 temporary construction easements. For this article, we need a 2/3 vote. Board of Selectmen recommend.
Favorable action.
Road Commissioner recommends.
Favorable action.
Favourable. Finance Board.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action. Any discussion on this? Okay. Would someone please give an explanation of the mic? It should be on
town line to Parker Road will be phase one. Parker Road to Gardner Street will be phase two. Right now, this is for phase one. And this is to, we're gonna make the sidewalks 8 foot wide, some handicap ramp work. And what we have to do is also on people's driveways, go back into their driveway. Those are the temporary easements, which they'll get new driveway aprons. And the permanent easements will be like 6 inches or a foot. We need on their property to make the sidewalk handicap accessible.
Any other questions? There being none, any other discussion? Please, you have to come to the mic, please. And I'm asking you to state your name and address.
Justin Gordon, Wolf Drive. Why do we need 8-foot wide sidewalks? Are we driving on them?
We need 8 foot wide sidewalks so we'll be prepared to plow it in the winter time, so we have some snow area to keep the pile of snow, the windrow of snow from the street. Otherwise, we'd have to go with a planter strip, which we found out in the past, no one really takes care of it. Some people will take care of it and some people won't. And we can't put trees in the planter strip because it'd be too close to the road. So 8 foot's including the curbing, so it won't be as wide as it sounds.
Any other questions? There being none, we'll take a vote on this. Remember, we need a 2/3 vote for this one to pass. Those in favour of Article 3 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Unanimous. I set up for 2/3 vote. Article 4. Conservation Commission transfer $10,000 from the fees account to the services account. Selectmen recommend.
Favorable action.
Finance.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. All in favour of Article 4 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Unanimous aye. Article 5. This is basically to pay $900 for the William Bugas Jr. Post 7366 on the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, as authorised by Mass General Law. Board of Selectmen recommend.
Favorable action.
Finance.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action. Any discussion? Then, oh. No. There being no further discussion, we'll take a vote. Those in favour of Article 5 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. The ayes have it. Unanimous. 6. This is a very, very difficult one. To accept $35,000 from the electric department to reduce the tax rate. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion on this one. Board of Selectmen recommend. Favourable. Finance.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action. Any discussion on accepting the money? There being none, we'll vote. All in favour of Article 6 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Unanimous. Moving right along. Article 7 is what we call the omnibus budget, the cost for running the town, basically. For anyone who has not been here before, I'll just go through the basics. I'll just name the title in each section, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If there's anyone who wishes to discuss any item in that section, you just say hold and we will come back to it. We won't discuss it at that moment, but we'll come back to it. Okay? So I'll read through the dark versions, the highlighted. Moderator. Selectmen. Department of Budget and Finance. computer system consultant, town clerk, conservation commission, planning and engineering, Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, zoning board of appeals, municipal fields and water, municipal buildings, insurance, and town reports. So the total town government comes to $939,497. Public safety, police department, parking clerk, communication. Just call out hold and we'll come back to it. Hold, all right. For the next. So if you have any questions, just call out hold. We've just done communications, fire department, inspectors, civil defense, animal control officer. Total public safety comes to $1,539,866. Next, we're on to education. Public works. Highways. Street lighting. Rubbish collection. Cemetery. Total of public works comes to $1,160,569. Next, human services. Board of Health. Council on Aging. Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley. Veterans. And the total for human services comes to $215,163. Next, culture and recreation, library, Memorial Day services. The total for culture and recreation is $227,455. Next, debt service and debt principal, 0. And unclassified, we have Essex County Retirement Fund, unemployment compensation, employees' health insurance, employees' life insurance, Medicare tax. Total of unclassified comes to $745,931. The grand total for the whole omnibus budget is $13,412,581. And the one hole that we have is for communications. Would somebody from the police department like to discuss communications?
The communications line item is the salaries for. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
The lowest, that line item is the salaries for the full-time and part-time dispatchers, and then the expenses for supplies and anything you need in the communications, which is the 911 dispatch center. Any other questions about that?
Does anyone have any more questions?
Does that also include the TV station or anything like that? No, sir. That's just. That's pretty much covers it, 911 and the dispatch. Yes, that's anything to do with the communications, dispatch, 911, cooperation of the police department. Yes, and fire as well. We dispatch for the fire.
Chief, could you clarify the job description on the parking clerk?
The parking clerk is in charge of the funding for the parking tickets. He does all the paperwork and everything for the park.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you.
Move favorable action on Article 7.
Well, so, do you have a question?
Yes, I just have one question. they all the same? How much are they?
Well, I don't have figures with me, but
An approximate?
there's different rates. You want your annual salaries?
No, just an approximate for your average dispatcher and what their pay is.
Well, this is for all the dispatchers, full-time and part-time. I read, the breakdown in front of me of how much each person makes, but that is the annual total for all the dispatchers, part-time and full-time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? There being none, we now go to vote on the omnibus budget.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favour of the omnibus budget as presented, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Majority has it. Thank you. Article 8, the water department budget. If you remember, the water and sewer department work together, but they have two separate budgets. So this is the first part, the water department budget. 798,000.
You vote on the finance committee budget. 797, 154.
Sorry.
It's on the right.
797. So you vote on the
Vote on the 797, 154.
All right, we're voting on the amount under the bottom line. Can you see that? 797,154. So that's the amount we're voting on. Water and sewer commissioners recommend. Did I hear anybody? Favourable. Selectmen? Finance?
Favorable action. Vote favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded favourable action for the 797,154 amount. Any discussion, questions? There being none, we'll vote. All in favour of the water department budget for that amount, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. No. Make the majority. Sewer department budget, second part. Again, we're voting on the bottom line underneath the bottom right-hand side, 478,566 for the sewer department budget. Water and sewer commissioners recommend.
We voted favorable on the FY14 amount, income amount, for the clarification.
Would you like to come to the mic and explain that? Just hold it until I get everybody's recommendation. Board of Selectmen recommend.
Move favorable on the 478, 566.
All right.
Second.
Finance.
Favorable on the 478, 566.
Everybody okay with it? So we have Selectmen and the Finance Board are favourable on the 478,566 amount. Now we're having discussion.
Yeah, Bruce Adams, 108 Main Street, Water and Sewer Commissioner. Just to clarify, we did not meet after the Finance Committee, or we found out about the Finance Committee's reduction in their budget, so we voted favorably on the FY14 number. Sorry about that.
Then, is there any more discussion on this sewer department budget? There being none, we'll vote. Those in favour of Article 9 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. No. Majority. Article 10. This is a housekeeping article to fix salaries and compensation for all elected and appointed officers of the town for 12 months ending June the 30th, 2014, and fixing salaries according to Articles 7 to 9 as above the omnibus budget and the sewer and water department budget. Board of Selectmen recommend. Finance.
Favorable action. Move favorable action. Second.
Moved and seconded for favourable action. All in favour, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. No. Majority. Article 11. This has to be a 2/3 vote again. And if anyone would like to speak, you can come up to one of the mics, if you'd like some explanation on this in a minute. To borrow and issue bonds for 140,000 for engineering and construction of sewer. Can't read my own writing. Okay.
It's on Highland Avenue.
On Highland Avenue. Okay. Water and sewer commissioners recommend.
Favorable.
Board of Selectmen recommend. Finance.
Favorable action. Move favorable action.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Seconded, moved and seconded. Now discussion. Mr. Adams?
Bruce Adams, 108 Main Street. First, I move to amend the article to insert the words "in Highland Avenue" after the word "improvements" in the third sentence.
Second.
This is basically amending the article, so in that, even though it's a slight change, we have to vote on the slight change before it's added to the original article. Does everybody understand that? So Mr. Adams has moved to amend Article 11 to insert the words "in Highland Avenue" after the word "improvements" on the third sentence of the article. Okay, so we're just adding clarification really in Highland Avenue. We're voting on just these words, the added words right now. Anyone would like to ask anything else about it before we begin?
What number Highland Avenue? For the whole street?
The whole street. I'll explain that more in a minute.
Oh,
The whole street, I guess. Any more discussion before we vote on just adding these extra words, Highland Avenue?
how is it, will it be offset? What timeline?
That's a question for the article, which we'll have.
Okay. We're going to cut off discussion now, but I think we're going to get into the deeper discussion in a moment when we do the whole article. Now we're going to just vote on adding these Highland Avenue words. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Unanimous. On the amendment.
Move favorable action article as amended. Second.
Moved and seconded to move on Article 11 with the words "on Highland Avenue" added in. Okay? Water and Sewer Commissioners recommend.
Favorable.
Selectmen favourable and Finance both favourable. We've already had that. Okay. Would you like to discuss this a little more?
Yes.
Adam?
And sorry for not putting the street in question in the article. Periodically, these petitions, which are from residents who are close to the sewer system but not served, come in. So in the case of Highland Avenue, which we're not familiar is off of Main Street, I believe there's Full Street, sorry. My way around. There are, I believe, 11 homes on Highland Avenue, and several of the residents petitioned for the sewer department to investigate sewering the street. So in this case, what happens is, if you approve this article and vote favorably, the sewer department will borrow $140,000 and build a sewer in that street. The cost to repay that money is apportioned equally among those 11 homes, and they will pay it back through the form of a betterment over 20 years. And it goes on your tax bill and your January tax bill, and you pay that once a year for the next 20 years. I believe 5% interest. If you refinance your home, you have to pay it off immediately. If you sell your home, you pay it off immediately. So there would be no cost to the sewer customers, no cost to the taxpayers. The whole cost would be borne by those 11 residents. And sometimes the question comes up, what if some of those residents don't want the sewer? It's really up to them to come up here and say yea or nay whether they want it. And whatever the town meeting votes tonight, all 11 will get, or not get.
Any other questions? Would you please stand up and give your name? It's a lengthy question. Come to the mic.
Deborah from Dorr Street. I just wanted to be sure that all those residents were aware that this was happening tonight, even though that wasn't included in that article. Were all the residents aware that this was happening? We're here.
I think they're here. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but as a resident of Highland Ave, we do not want this. We do not want.
We do not want it.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
Folks, Matt King, 15 Highland Avenue. This article is to tie Highland Street into the public sewer, and I just want to reiterate what you said earlier, that it's no cost to the taxpayer. Sorry. The 11 homeowners, 7 are already in full agreement that we do want this. There's 7 already want this agreement and make a good economic and environmental sense. That leaves 4 which are on the fence regarding the subject. If this were an election, this letter is not necessary. So just want to reiterate the fact that there's 7 people, 7 homeowners on Highland Avenue that do want this, and we're looking for a yes vote.
Any other discussion? There being none, we will take a vote. Remember, we have to have a 2/3 aye vote for this to pass. And if it's too close, we'll have a hand count. Those in favour of Article 11 say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
I call it a major majority, definitely over the 2/3 passes. Article 12. This is to acquire land 6 to 1 acres at 157th Street. This is called the busing property for $3,679,000. This needs a 2/3 vote here, and it also needs a second vote a week from today on the election ballot. So when you go and vote in Town Hall a week from today, this will also be on the ballot. It will not pass unless it passes in both places. Okay? So here it's got to pass by a 2/3 vote. Board of Selectmen recommend?
Favorable action.
Finance?
I move to table the article.
The Finance Board has moved to table the article. That means there will be no more discussion, right? Okay, now, to table the article takes it away from you being able to vote on it. But, hold on a minute. I can see disappointed faces out there. In order to table the article, in other words, take it off your discussion, away from your discussion, there has to be a 2/3 vote in favor of tabling it. Okay? Does everybody get that? You have to, 2/3 of you have got to vote that you do not want to vote on this. on this, we have to go straight to a vote. Do you want to table? Those in favour of tabling it, be very careful and listen to me carefully. If you're in favour of tabling it, you've got to stop any more work, any more discussion on this article. If you vote no on the tabling article, you keep it on the table. We can go on from there. All right? So those in favour of tabling, say aye. Aye. Those opposed to tabling, say no. No. I think the noes have it this time. The table, the article action for tabling is defeated. So we're back where we started. Okay, so we're back to see if the town will vote to authorize selectmen to acquire the 61 acres on the busing property at 150 Center Street. As I said, it needs a second vote at the town meeting if it passes here. Okay. Selectmen recommend favourable? Yes. Finance board? No, unfavourable, I guess. If I'm very good at reading minds. Okay. Do we have any discussion on this?
Is there a motion? Yeah.
Motion and second.
You don't have to. Move favorable action.
Sorry. I'm looking up here a little bit. Moved and seconded for favourable action. We're now back to the regular article. If you vote aye, you're in favour of buying this. Of discussing it. I'll take a deep breath and I'll get this right third time lucky. Discussion first. This gentleman, name and address please first.
Alex Johnson, 461 Main, Chair of the Open Space and Trails Committee. I just want to, and I'm going to touch on 3 articles just because they're all part of the same project, so I do want to give you all some background on all 3. I'll try to be as concise as possible. I suspect we'll have some questions. So the 3 parcels in question, just in case you guys are not familiar with where these are geographically in town, what we're talking about is the parcels that sit between Main Street, Washington Street, Center Street, and the railway bed. And if you look on a map, the 3 parcels that we're talking about tonight, Articles 12, Articles 13, and Articles 15, essentially cover the bulk of that property. In between, that other 4th piece on top is 30-some acres that's already owned by the water department. So Article 12 is the busing, is owned by Jim Busing. 61 acres, sits along Center Street, commonly referred to as Strawberry Fields. You can see it as you drive by. It's pretty scrappy terrain, but it's currently used as a practice field occasionally by the football team. Article 13, map 33, lot 9, 48 acres. It's the one that sits on the east side. 48 acres sits on the east side, up against the railway bed. And Article 15, which is collectively 54 acres between 2 parcels, sits between closest to the Main and Center Street, or Main and Washington Street intersection. I want to cover payment. How are we talking about paying for these properties? So, purchase price is $935,000. Will be paid for. This is for the for parcel, which we're calling parcel 2, the 54 acres closest to Center and Main. Washington, Maine. Article 15 would be paid for, the purchase price of $935,000 would be paid for with $835,000 of existing Community Preservation Act funds and $100,000 of existing cash on hand in the water department. Parcel 3, which is Article 13, purchase price of $500,000 will be paid for with $390,000 from existing Community Preservation Act funds and $110,000 coming from existing natural heritage set aside. So those 2 articles would cost you no cash out of hand, and I'll come back to the CPA in a second. The 3rd piece we're talking about, Article 12, would be paid for with a debt million. That would get spread out over a 20-year period, and would get added on to your tax bill at the end of the 20 years. That additional tax premium would come off your tax bill. I do want to talk about the CPA for a second. The large portion of those first two properties that are being paid for with CPA, keep in mind that the CPA, the Community Preservation Act, is something that was instilled intentionally to allow towns to maintain the integrity, the natural resources, and the charm of their town. And so the way it's structured is that a slice of our taxes gets pulled off each year automatically because of the way the act's structured and put into a kitty. And for every dollar we put in, the state matches that to a certain degree, right? Put some additional money in. So every year, a couple $100,000 goes into the CPA fund. Okay, and the CPA fund is limited in what you can do with it. It's limited to open space preservation, recreation, affordable housing, and historical preservation. Those are the only 4 things you can do with it, right? And it's intended to be that way so you're sort of encouraged to do these things. And we've certainly done lots of CPA in the past. There's a couple more articles on there tonight to use as funds for other similar tasks. So bear in mind that this is exactly what this money is intended to be used for, certainly one large portion of it, right? And there's a certain allocation of it that's intended specifically for each of those causes, but then there's a large portion which is unallocated, which can be used for any of the 4 goals. So this is exactly what the town is encouraged to use this money for, otherwise it sits there. You know, we can't take it back into taxes and use it to reduce our tax bill. So I've stressed that. Second, on the busing property, I know everybody's looking at the $3.6 million price tag and the increase in taxes and saying, oh, I don't want more taxes, right? And I get it. Nobody wants more taxes. But bear in mind a couple things. One, that while we're paying for it with a debt exclusion right now, that's intentional, partially because we don't have enough CPA funds currently to pay that amount. And so we're trying to find a way to do this because the opportunity has presented itself. And for various reasons, this opportunity may not be around to present itself again, ever. And so to some degree, we're trying to do this in a way that makes the most sense for a town. Now, that said, there are certainly provisions, and certainly towns have done it. In the future, if in the future you decide you want to allocate it for recreation or for open space preservation, you have the ability to do transfers into CPA. Certain towns have certainly done it. And so you could, in fact, use CPA funds down the road to reallocate a portion of that property, and you could use CPA funds to help offset some of that debt. Okay? The second thing to keep in mind, I know people are concerned about, we've got glossy maps with, rec fields and stuff in there. Keep in mind that's just a concept, and it's intended really just to show you what you could do with that property, because right now, if you're familiar with it, it's largely just strip mine. It's sandy gravel, it's bare. And so part of it is if the town owned it, they wanted to do something with it, what can you do? And so we're trying to show you what an impressive piece of property that is. You could decide to put rec fields on it, you could decide to do nothing with it. Frankly, if the town wanted to, you could decide to put a new firehouse or a school on it if you wanted to. But all of those decisions would have to be made down the road once you own the property, and it would all be subject to the town having to get behind it and vote on it. Okay, so none of these things would be made in a vacuum. None of these decisions about what to do with the property after the fact would be made in a vacuum, and certainly without the vote of the town. So going back to the idea of development, right? I think there's a lot of concern about, okay, great, you're going to hit me up for this money to buy the property now, and then you're going to come back to me later for more money to develop it, put rec field or something else on it. Keep in mind that those same CPA funds that we're using today to buy 2 of these parcels, 2 of these properties, could be used down the road as well to build out that property, right? So you wouldn't necessarily have any additional tax burden to do that. You could also use it for other things on the property. A couple other things to consider. Costs. Well, why are we buying them now? One, because the opportunity presented itself. But all 3 properties, I know we've been talking about these properties for a decade now or more. And frankly, the fact that we have gotten all 3 landowners to the table at the same time is incredible. And so I think that's really the first and foremost. The second piece, these are really strategic properties. For those of you who don't know, obviously relative to the water parcel that that we own right there, all three of these properties sit smack in the middle of our Zone 2 aquifer recharge area. That means that all the water that comes down through those properties is what refills our primary well and flows into our water system. Right? And so our primary goal, and I can tell you anecdotes about, documentaries and news stories about contaminated wells, but we don't need an anecdote because we've already had that in our town. For those of you who are not familiar, we did in fact already have, drive up Washington Street, you see the old gray warehouse that sits on Washington Street, Valley Screw, which drained contaminants into the ground and contaminated, a couple decades ago, well into our well water, right? And so there's now a big brick building behind it. They've been purging that pollution for the last couple decades. And we're almost at a point now where it's fully restored. But we've already had contamination in that well. And so first and foremost should be our concern for trying to protect all those water resources, because many towns aren't fortunate to have an aquifer and a resource like we do. And so first and foremost, we're trying to buy these properties to protect that water resource for everybody for now and 20 and 40 years from now. Okay? The second thing is, in terms of costs, bear in mind that if you look at the costs on what a student costs, you got 100 houses. Cost right now, it costs about $8 grand to put a kid through school in this town. The taxes on the proposed selling price of these houses on a 40B, there's a 40B, sorry, on the bottom property there, the one that's costing us $3.6 million. And the 40B is proposing 100 house development on that property. Each house is targeted about a 450 grand selling price. The taxes on a $400,000 house are only about 6 grand. So it falls about 2 grand short of actually covering the cost of putting a student through school. So if you assume that you've got, let's say, even half the houses, and let's assume only half the houses have kids, and of those houses, only 1 kid per house, right? 50 kids. Your shortfall is about 100 grand per year if they put those houses in there. And that shortfall is indefinite, right? So it goes on forever. And I know there's a lot of people that say, well, the 40B will never happen. Keep in mind that the main difference today is that the 40B that's out there today, the property owner has actually hired a developer for the first time solely to realize the property. And he doesn't care how he realizes it. He either wants to sell it, or he wants to build on it, or he wants to, better yet, get all the permits done, and then sell it, okay? Somebody else will want to build on it. Okay, but keep in mind this is a much more some certain deal than it's ever been before. And so this isn't a buy or don't buy situation, this is more of a buy or build situation. Sorry. Fine.
Thank you for that explanation. Is there someone else who'd like to ask a question or?
Hi, I'm Bill Cook from I'm the chair of the Finance Committee. I don't know if you're aware of this. We talked about all 3 properties. I thought we were only going to talk about Article 12. All 3 properties at this point in time don't have a signed purchase and sale. They have agreements, but they don't have a signed purchase and sale. The carrying cost of this override for this property is going to be $5.9 million, not 3.6. So the 3.6 figure you're being shown is not including the interest it's going to cost. Currently, our tax rate's $14.48 per thousand. Back in '05, it was $9.38. So you can see how it's creeping up. None of these properties have had any environmental study done on them that's clearing them from any possible hazmat or anything that's on these properties. No 21E study at all. On one of the evaluations out of these 3 properties, I believe it was the Mattingly property, there was discussion of TCE levels on the property that were above the acceptable levels. That was the contaminant that came from Valley Screw. So that is my concerns. That's why I was asking to table this, because there wasn't enough information. Tonight, just before we met, I was handed some emails that consisted of possible purchase and sales that are agreed to, but there's nothing that's signed. Anytime I've ever bought a house, I had a signed purchase and sale, so there's supposed to be writing in there, that's supposed to address the, if there's any 21E issues, but I don't have a signed agreement, the town does not have a signed agreement, so these are the issues I just want you to realize and look at. At this point in time, we have 20,000 acres of tax-deferred properties in the town of Groveland. Those are properties that could be schools, they could be churches, it could be open space. I couldn't narrow it down any better. If you take this property off the rolls, you're going to lose $13,362 in taxes. If you take all three properties off the rolls, you're going to lose $37,496 in taxes. So it's just something to think about. Thank you.
Next, Michael?
Mike Dempsey, 33 Uptack Road, I'm Chairman of the Conservation Commission, and I'll address Mr. Cook's points. As far as sign purchase and sale, unfortunately, it's not because we haven't tried. This time of year, town councils are very busy. We have had the purchase and sales for these three properties since January. Unfortunately, legal review, if you've ever bought a house, you know that everything has to be reviewed by your lawyer and the seller's lawyer. And so that's the position we've been in. Unfortunately, you probably could address it even better than I, why we don't have those in place. But we specifically asked town council about this issue. Is this going to be a problem? Is this an issue that we should be concerned about at town meeting because we don't have the signed purchase and sale in hand? Well, it isn't. This does not really affect our purchase of the property. Tonight, we're voting about yes or no. We want to commit our funds to it. The details of a purchase and sale, we have the price. That's not going to change. 99% of the purchase and sales are set. And really, the only reason why it hasn't been done, it isn't because we haven't been on it. I've been working with Nancy, the selectmen. It's just because town council has been too busy. The other thing he asked about the environmental studies. Again, have you ever purchased, if you have purchased a home in the last 25 years, every single purchase and sale requires that the owner certify that the property does not have environmental issues or you don't have to buy it. And that's exactly what we have built into those purchases and sales. We don't have to worry about that issue. There may or may not, we cannot say specifically whether there are environmental issues on any of these properties, unfortunately. But we have a safeguard so that if there is an environmental issue, we don't have to buy it if the owner doesn't clear it out. And finally, the cost. There's no question that this is going to cost us money. And, the figure that is out there for the average homeowner for 20 years is $122. That's what it's going to cost the average homeowner. That's what you have to be thinking about. And depending upon where your house is in the cost of homes, that's for approximately a $325,000 home. So based on where your home is, and I saw there's calculators out there that you can look at to see exactly what it's going to cost. But beyond that, there's no question that this is important and we should be asking, can we afford it? We've done everything we can to lower the cost. We recently applied for 2 more grants that potentially, if we get them, are going to lower the cost of the 3 properties by $500,000. So that's out there. But again, beyond that, I think it's important to really think about why should we spend this money? If you didn't ask that question, you probably would be irresponsible with your personal finances. So I would say the top number 1 reason why we have to buy this property is it's our water. It's all about our water. And I'm not on the water board, I'm on conservation, but our water is the most important thing. 80% of the water that we get, that you get in your homes, if you have town water, come from the well that is fed by the aquifer that's under these three properties. And I don't think none of us here want that to lose. No matter what, we don't want to have a replay of what happened back in the early 80s. So, there's no doubt that it comes at a cost, but I think if we don't make this investment tonight, we cannot do it any other time. This is unfortunately our hour. They're going to look back on us someday and say, in 2013, those people in Groveland did the right thing and voted for this. So I ask for your support on this tonight. Thank you.
Deborah Young, 106 Center Street. I'm also one of your zoning board members. And just to clarify, people who don't understand that this is the time. I've been on the zoning board about 10 years now. This piece of property has been in front of us for probably 9. We have been fighting, and it's been put off and put off. It started at a lot more homes. But right now, we have an open application there. And this is a water supply. This is the most valuable piece of property that we own in this town. We won't have another chance to do this. And when you think about the cost, and I'm the first one to tell you when my taxes go up, I'm screaming. But I'll tell you something. The 40B that's in front of us is 100 homes. And these 100 homes have 4 bedrooms in each of them. 4. You could have 3 kids in each home, maybe more. So you not only have to worry about your schooling, you also have to worry about the electrical department, which will probably have to be upgraded. You're going to have to worry about hiring more police, more fire department, probably a full-time fire department. You want to talk about cost? This is the Pandora's box, my friends. It's a big Pandora's box. And I don't want to be part of letting this time go by. I really love this town. And this is so important. So this little money to go up is really nothing. If you really want to stop and think of what the cost is going to happen, then start, thinking about everything it's going to affect when you start rolling in those kind of people that quickly in this small town. You won't have a small town anymore to be a city. And 40Bs, you can't stop. We don't like them, but the state dictates what happens. Our zoning laws don't mean anything. It goes by state. And if we don't like what they're doing, and they don't follow our rules, they'll appeal and they will win. And if they win, they can get more. So if you want to fight for 100 homes and you don't want to give it to them, they can come back and put in 300. So really think about this. It's a small price over a large amount of time. And the cost will be more. Thank you. Excuse me a minute. We got 2 other people. I'm not going to move the question while we have people who have already stated they want to speak. I'm sorry. Mr. Hewitt.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, I, of course, am town council of the town of Groveland. I'm responsible for everything that happens when you're warned and comes before you at town meeting time. Mr. Dempsey a moment ago said that town council was too busy to secure a signed purchase and sale agreement. I typically send around an email to the firm a week or so before town meeting and ask if there's anything I should know about or anything that is undone, or any problems any of the attorneys in the firm who have been handling work for the town wish me to know, and I didn't receive any information from the attorney who is responsible for this. So what I will tell you is, you do not pay us to tell you we are too busy. I will get to the bottom of it. I attempted to reach the attorney who is responsible on my iPhone tonight, couldn't get him. I will get you an answer, and I will report to the Board of Selectmen tomorrow, and I will ask them to publish that. You should not get that kind of an answer from an attorney in my firm. I'm surprised to hear that. I've never heard that before. We have served you now for over 20 years, and I personally have attended your meetings now for over 20 years. First time I've ever heard anything like that. I promise you I will get to the bottom of it, and you will not hear that again about any attorney in my firm. Thank you, ma'am.
Phil Taylor, 17 Yale Street. Not going to belittle the points I've already made, but what I just want to say is...
Could you use the microphone, please?
Sorry. I'm not going to go over the point that the others have made, but I just want to say that I know there are a lot of people working for the town towards this project, and I have faith and confidence that all of them have the best interests of the town at heart. That's for when it comes to the issues about what's the status of the property and concerns there. The environmental protections, that's something that's typically done after the purchase and sale is signed, and I have confidence that the typical language will be in the purchase and sale. I don't think our town council will let it go through without it, and those inspections will be done and those issues will be addressed at that time. Also, like it was said before, this is the time to make the vote, because if we don't vote to appropriate the money now, there probably won't be another chance to get a meeting convened to try to appropriate the money if something comes up in the short future. Also, I presume many people probably had some indication of which way they were leaning. And because this needs to go to the ballot next week, I encourage everyone who may not feel that they want to purchase this, please vote in favor of it tonight. Let this go to the ballot. Let the entire town have the opportunity to decide what they want to do. Do not leave this decision to the smaller town meeting body as compared to the larger electorate in the town of Groveland. Thank you.
Deborah Webster, 45 Wood Street. I also work in the Groveland Assessor's Office, so I'm really familiar with values and land and where it's trending. Just wanted to address some points that were made by various people that I think they might have maybe got a little confused with some numbers. First of all, the town of Groveland has 6,600 acres in total. We're a very small town. We're about 9 square miles. 2,000 of the acres are already what we call exempt. They're exempt from property taxes based on their town-owned property, state-owned property, and some of the land is owned by other municipalities. Of the 2,000 acres that's already exempt, 1,770 acres are already conservation land. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the wildlife areas that are off of Center or Seven Star. That comprises alone about 1,500 acres, so a good portion of it is state. The finance board talked about, I think you said 20,000, I think you meant to say 2,000. And also as far as the tax rate goes, we can't just look at the tax rate because they are very misleading. There are many larger communities, such as cities, that have what they call split rates. They have a different tax rate for commercial industrial property and a separate tax rate for residential. If you compare apples to apples, the town of Groveland, I know a lot of people, especially people who have lived here a long time, our taxes have gone way up in recent history for various reasons, not just budgetary increases, but a good portion of that is reduction of state aid. But our tax rate of $14.48 are actually out of pocket compared to other towns. We are next to the lowest with the exception of Salisbury, as far as what it costs for the same house, comparable house in the other towns. So you take out cities like Haverhill and that type of thing. My major concern with these purchases, it's not really the Angelini property or Skyline Heights, which is the Mattingly property that you're hearing. I've seen the three appraisals. My concern is I don't understand, because we work with appraisals all the time in setting values, is you have the Angelini property, which is only, I believe, 7 acres smaller. It's very comparable to the Bussing property. It has less frontage. It's on the other side. Bussing still has to run sewer to it in order to do what he needs to do. There's no sewer at the site currently. So there's a lot of infrastructure originally proposed with busing, a 40B. He came in with various amounts. It's been going on for a long, long time. And Debbie from the zoning board stated that kind of like if we don't do this, you could come back and ask for 300 houses. That can't happen because we're a small town. 40B sets limits to how many houses you can put, kind of shove down our throats. Because we're small, the maximum number is, I think, 150, if my memory serves me correctly. It's not 300, because actually Dean Sean has tried that. So we were able to kind of put a stop to it. But my concern is the appraisal price. We just had a recent sale, if anybody doesn't know, of Essley lumber. We have it assessed at $1.2 million currently for fiscal 2013. It sold for $985 just last week. The busing property is assessed at less than $1 million, yet it's appraised at 3.75 by the appraiser. I'm not sure where the guy got his comparables. I don't know if any of you are familiar with appraisals, but my question is, if Mike can answer it, is how can Angelini's property, which is very similar in type and location, be appraised, and I know there's a proposed 40B on Bussey's property, which is going to raise the value, but I can't believe that our assessed values are close to the appraised values for both the Mattingly and the Angelini property, yet the Bussey property is currently assessed for just under $1 million, and we're going to be paying 3.6. So that I would like to answer. And also why were 3 different appraisers used, because it would have made more sense to have a consistency using the same appraisers for the properties where they were all together. So that's my main concern, but I do agree with Phil. I think town meeting, because this is a small sampling of what people feel about this property. I have my own feelings, but I do think it should be allowed to go to the ballot because I think everybody didn't want to come or it's inconvenient for them to come. Should have an opportunity to vote, and I can live with whatever the general population votes on as long as it's a clear majority of what the town wants.
We have somebody waiting, so he was waiting first.
John Osborne, 3 Pleasant Street. I'd like to speak a little bit about the pollution issue. I was the chairman of the Well Pollution Committee, and we had a settlement of $1 million after 11 years of trudging through the wilderness and this thing. It's hard to realize, but the well that we've got currently, which is called well number 1, has the capacity of about 650 gallons per minute. When we lost that well, and we had essentially reduced its capacity down to about 300 gallons per minute in order to prevent the pollution being pulled into the well. So we were able to sort of limp along with it. But in the meantime, we were also trying to find alternate well sources. We have one at the back of the town hall, which has about 300 gallons per minute capacity. And from the settlement, we also got 400 gallons per minute well purchased behind the cemetery. Now, the one problem along the river, the one problem with those 2 later wells is that if the Merrimack got severely polluted, then we would be in serious trouble because we would only have the well field that we are trying to protect here at 650 gallons per minute. The town could limp along with 650 gallons per minute if there was no well pollution in the vicinity. So there is a strong case based on just pure water to support this application. I do feel that the price is exorbitant. I think we're being taken to the cleaners, but on the other hand, you've got to look at it from the big picture. Then on the other hand, talking with Jeff here, we've just been talking about the impact on the schools. Now the current school, this elementary school, can take an additional 130 to 200 students once we've got the addition finished. And that, however, is going to have an impact, obviously, if we have more students from the 40B project we are not just looking at the capacity of the schools to take the new students, it's also the cost of all the teachers that have to be brought in to teach the additional students. And that is significant. At about $70,000 per teacher over a long period of time, it is looking at big money. So you've got two issues here that essentially does make a lot of sense economically. Looking at the long term, it makes sense to support this purchase. However, I must admit, it does stick in my craw. Thank you.
Justin Groveland, Fort Drive. I'm not for this. I don't want my taxes going up. One of the guys over there mentioned earlier that the properties are currently used, and I'm only referring to the busing property. The other two properties, I think it's great to pick that stuff up. We can get it at a good deal. Or $10,000 to $12,000 an acre, that's a good deal. Paying $60,000 for an acre, that's 6 times what the other values of the adjacent properties are worth. That's extortion to me. Why are we even thinking of being subjected to extortion from some guy who just wants to sell his property and make out something?
Yeah.
The guy over there, I don't know his name, he said that the properties are currently used by football teams and football people and soccer people. I've walked that property. I've been walking that property since I've been in this town for the last 23 years. Nobody is using that property. The guy put up soccer fields there years ago, but now for some reason they never got used, and from what people have been telling me, they aren't used because it's like playing soccer on a rock bed. So it's useless. So I don't believe what he said about the fields currently being used, especially by football players. I don't think football players want to be crash landing on a rock field. Also, the 100 house number, I believe that's arbitrary, and I don't understand how 40B housing is worth $450,000 each. I don't think we're going to put low-income people in $450,000 homes. Also, the $3.6 million that is really the $5.9 million is also, without the feasibility studies, EPA analysis, no purchase and sale agreement, no independent appraisals, no written plan for the property, and they want to buy this property with no restrictions. They want to do whatever they want with it. This isn't under the CPA rules where you can only have those 4 things you can use properties for. This is with no restrictions. That means they can do what they want with it, and God knows what they may do with it. I suggest we be cautious about this. And somebody also quoted the tax rate being $14.48, and the woman said that's one of the lowest rates in the state. I beg to disagree. This nice guy was handing out his paraphernalia when you walked in, and Groveland is above the 50% mark, close to the 75% of the highest taxes in the state. And the 1448 number does not include the water department, the electric department, and the unfunded liabilities this town carries. Nobody's considering these things. Oh, and the green brochures that were out, they were mailed to us all. They were saying things like they want to protect nature, and they want our kids to have biking trails and walking trails, and they want to protect the natural habitat around Gilla Brook and Johnson's Creek. I think I have that right. But then they say they want to develop it. How is protecting nature by leveling the earth to put in recreational fields, protecting the very nature you're claiming you want to protect? If they want to enjoy the nature and the natural habitat by putting in paved and walking, biking trails, that's a complete contradiction in terms. You want to protect the natural aquifer by excavating the earth where you endanger the natural water filtering system that filters down to it. If you're going to dig it up.
Can you please wrap it up now? Can you wrap it? We've got other people waiting.
Thank you. I'm trying to get to it. I'm going as fast as I can. Well, these are all contradictory statements. And plus, if they want to take, if they just, aquifer is so dang important, why don't they just take it over by eminent domain? They can pay a reasonable amount of money for it, and they don't have to pay 6 times what the property value's worth. And as far as putting in all these trails, hiking, biking, and walking trails, as I said, I've been walking these trails for the past 20 years. I haven't seen anybody over there. These trails have been there for 20 years. So you're going to tell me you're putting in all these new trails, more people are going to use them? I don't buy it. So that's my set. Thank you.
asked for those things.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Daniel MacDonald, Waco Lane. Been a resident in town for 7 years. I'm a certified public accountant. I am an attorney at law. And let me tell you about the tax rate situation. We have high taxes here. Take a good look at Amesbury. You want to be Amesbury? You're heading in that direction. Okay? As far as having the lowest tax rates, I'm paying almost $8,000 for a $500,000 house. Okay? The statement that it's only going to cost the average taxpayer $121. Let me sell you some swampland too. Anybody want it? Okay? That's a simplistic view of what's going on in this town. For every dollar of tax increase, whether you call it a CPA, okay, or you call it a tax increase, or you call it a user fee, people outside the town pay attention and they compare. They do a comparative analysis and they decide whether or not they want to buy here or they don't want to buy here. So we have limited resources. Most people in this town are middle-class people. We can't afford to pay thousands and thousands of dollars. I don't know about you, but I have 3 8-year-olds, and my kids are going to need braces and college educations and everything else, and $1,000 here and there, nickel and dime, me adds up. I care about that. I don't want my property value to drop another $90,000. Thank you, government, okay? I don't want that. Enough is enough in this town. And as far as getting a P&S agreement, you damn well better have a contingency agreement in there for a clean 21E, and it better have subsurface testing in it.
Please,
okay?
please, I'm asking everybody to please be civil.
All right.
Thank you.
Strike that. I apologize. A little emotional. But you're really going to take a hard look at this. There's other big projects people are talking about. I heard $18 million for a renovation on a high school, maybe $35 million for a replacement of that. At what point do you say we can't afford it? If you need the aquifers, absolutely take the aquifers. There's enough money in the CPA funds, spend the money wisely on that. I endorse taking the aquifers. The busing property is an absolute waste of money. It's overpriced. I'm not even sure there's a good appraisal on it. And there are enough safeguards in federal and state environmental protection laws that you can't have contamination in that property from 100 residential units. And if you want to have belts and suspenders to protect the property from contamination, you put those safeguards in place, you run the sewer line down Center Street, and you connect up to those 100 residences within that town. And that's how you solve the problem, so that you do not contaminate that well. The other well that was contaminated was in the butter to a commercial property. Those days are long gone. We have environmental protection laws that protect you and me. Don't take the bait on this. There's fear tactics going on here. It's anti-development. 100 houses isn't going to crush the taxpayers. It isn't going to crush the Bagnell Elementary School. Absolute nonsense. That you have local aid that comes in a formula, and as the population increases, you're going to have adjustments in the tax base that will supplement, so the additional $6,000 or $7,000 per year in tax revenue generated from those residents will be supplemented with local aid from the state, which, by the way, is your money and my money too, that we can thank the Commonwealth for and give it back to us the second time. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I just want to bring it in for a second and speak completely unemotionally. You know, whenever we vote, I think we get another facts. And he said there'd be $450,000 homes in a 40B. Well, the way the 40B laws work is that 25% of homes that are built have to be priced in an affordable rate. And the way that they do that, jack up the price on the other homes, okay? Now, the houses, they can't look markedly different from the outside. On the inside, they are. They don't have granite countertops, they don't have all this stuff, but the houses have to be expensive. They're not going to build 100 houses that sell for, $200,000. They can't. They can't make the project work. So that's how that works, okay? I just want everyone to understand that. And the they that everybody refers to, that this previous speaker referred to, the they is you. The they is us. The they is town meeting. The they isn't the Board of Selectmen or the Open Space Committee. It's town meeting voting to do something. There is no they.
it's you. So no government official can say, let's put a school there, let's put a field there, let's do this. It has to go in front of town meeting, okay? And ultimately the way is you. So everybody gets fired up about those things. Town meeting has ultimate control. And I just want to reiterate, the number one priority is just preservation, okay? That's it. I agree, John, 3.675 million is a whole lot of money. I do. And, you know, one of the things earlier, Don, kind of embarrassed me by thanking me for 18 years of service. Well, one of the things about having done this job for so long is that I was actually around, I think, on our first land purchase, which was Nuns Hill, and we were told that it would bankrupt the town. We couldn't afford to do it. Well, all these years later, that's not true. You know, we've had another 15 years of people enjoying that property and being able to use that and saving the you know, that part of the town. But I'd say it really is, we've been building towards this for a long time. And I agree, I'm sorry, to get back to, when we went to buy Nuns Hill, we didn't have an agreement on price. And originally, when it was up for sale, they asked like $2 or $3 million. It's been so long, I forget the exact numbers. And we knew that that was way too much. So at the time, it was just Barbara Sheen, who was on the board of selectmen, and me, because there was, the other person had resigned. And we decided that we would try and end it to make proceeding. And for those of you who've been here, we packed this auditorium. And it was pretty contentious because, you know, I said, when I first got elected, somebody came to me and said, you know, don't be afraid to give them help. And when, shortly thereafter, we decided to take the nuns to court, I thought that that qualified. Ultimately, we didn't, because the realtor, once we got the authority from the town meeting vote to try and make proceeding, they did come to the table, we negotiated a price lower and above. So, you know, I mean, I do agree this price is high, but you know, we don't want to tell the other owners, the other property, because they're going to ask us for more money. You know, why is, you know, they're saying theirs is worth too little compared to this. This property is worth, they tell us, the Bay developers, stuff, 30 to 60,000 per unit as an approved 40B. And it is just a matter of time. We've been trying to fight this thing for a long time. When they did first come in, it was like 300 homes. And as to this, Bruce, we had a meeting probably 8 or 9 years ago. We were talking to our attorney, said, well, what about our water source? Can people just build houses on it? And there really is no protection. We were told that, well, you know, DEP, they allow all this stuff. You just have to build a treatment facility if you have any issues. So again, we're playing a game of chicken with this piece of property, and it may or may not happen, and it right now is the time. And if we can get the price down, I'd be all for it. But let's not cloud the issue with things that aren't true. Let's stick to what we know are the facts. People like to throw all kinds of things, but there will be 100 houses at some point, maybe more. It may not happen right away, and that will be forever. And it does cost more. It's not just people like us making up these figures. There are studies that show how much it costs. You actually lose money on residential property as a town government. So in the long run, if you want your taxes lower, this is what you do. You buy the property, you don't allow 100 houses. Thank you.
I'm going to be for it for one reason. My wife passed away, as you may know, from PSP, which is progressive supranuclear palsy. It's a rare disease. There are 4 people in this town that have got it. Walter McIsaac died from it. Brenda Cross died from it. Mrs. Rice is about to die from it. The 4th prison, I can't name because the visiting nurse told me about it, and obviously that's a privacy. I do have permission there for the other 2. That's the reason I'm for it. The only common link is water. I can't prove it, but that's why I say what I'm saying. The land is only there once. There's already a water line through the solar fields. And the electric company put in all the wells, so that won't have to get disturbed. Planning for the eventual well. Water doesn't go away. We all need it. We all drink it.
Just to reiterate that it was supported by Wood Street, you cannot go by tax rate alone. For example, Concord, if you look at that listing that we are considerably higher than. Concord does not have a house that's valued at less than $1 million. They are one of the top 10 in the Commonwealth as far as how much it costs to pay taxes in the Commonwealth out of 351 cities and towns. I reiterate, the tax rate is only half of the equation. You have to know what the average single-family home is, and then using those both numbers, calculate out what the average tax bill is, because obviously if you have a higher value tax bill, the value is lower tax bill. Our average out of Essex County, again, comparing apples to apples, out of the entire county, okay, because Western Massachusetts is a whole different animal out there. They run like northern New Hampshire and Vermont, okay? There's a whole different way of life once you get past the coast. But Essex County, out of pocket, not counting cities, we have the lowest out of pocket tax burden in the county. So I just want to make that one.
Just answering the question about the appraisal. Appraising of land and open space is tricky. If you've ever had an appraisal done on your home, you know kind of how they do it, and you know there was a lot of investigation into appraisers and what they were doing and how that affected the financial problems that we had in 2000. Because of that, even though that has nothing to do with open space appraisals, they are very, very picky about how they do it. And unfortunately, the other thing about it being tricky is that it's hard to get appraisers to appraise open space. Not that many that do it, so you're kind of limited. I have about 3 or 4 that I typically use. 3 different appraisers appraised these properties. I believe we had about, for the 3 properties, we had about almost 7 appraisals done. So, and you know, sometimes they come out close. Crossing property is the trickiest one. That's the one that, you know, you bang your head against the wall to try to understand the reason, but the ultimate reason is, you know, that those houses are proposed there. And that, the other 2 properties don't have anything like that, anywhere close, anywhere near being proposed, where we have ZBA, as Deborah spoke about, is going to make their decision this year. So that's why that property, and I agree with John Osborne, you know, it's really a shame that we didn't buy this before. You know, if we had been able to get our act together in 2001 or 2002, certainly yes, it would have been cheaper. But right now we're on the brink. And as I said before, I think that you know, your vote tonight can make history for the town of Groveland. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot about the mic here. We will need a 2/3 vote and a 2/3 aye vote for this to pass in stage 1 of this article. Remember, we have to go to stage 2 next week at the ballot box. Okay, so we have Board of Selectmen who recommended favourable, Finance Board unfavourable. Okay. Let's have a vote. Those in favour of Article 12 say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. We need a 2/3, which means we've got to have a count here. We've got to have a hand count. Can I have a couple of volunteers, please? Could I have a volunteer on this side and help me have a hand count? Groveland. If you are not a registered voter in Groveland and you're an adult, you should be on the stage. All right? Okay. So this gentleman here is going from the camera to this side. You're going to count this side. You're going to count this side and right up to the stage. Okay? Okay? Those in favor, put your hands up. Say. Put your hand down once you see the counter has counted you.
Seventy, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75.